All right, let's move on to Bayern. I went to the game yesterday thinking, oh, it would be fun if Lennart Karl could score because then I could write like a stats piece on him becoming the youngest goal scorer for Bayern Munich in the Champions League. And then in fact, it's not just the Champions League, Stefan, it's actually in the Champions League and the European Cup. So going all the way back to the beginning of time and history. And you know what? He took 5 minutes for me to start writing my article because he took the ball in midfield, dribbled past two Bruges defenders, was taken on by four guys, and still managed to score. And you watch the replay, the ball comes off his left foot, and you don't even see him strike the ball. That's how beautiful of an executed strike it was. A stunning goal in his starting 11 debut in the Champions League, and writes history for Bayern Munich. And then from there on, Konrad Laimer sets up Harry Kane, sets up Luis Diaz, and then of course Nicholas Jackson gets his fourth in the second half. In the second half, where Bayern Munich basically took the foot off the gas pedal because the game was won. Once again, the way Bayern Munich came out storming in that first period against an opponent just trying to settle things as quickly as possible and play the dominant style of football. It's incredible to watch because what I thought was impressive about it is that even though it's a slightly rotated side and even though there was a 17-year-old playing in there, this team just feels unstoppable at the moment, Stefan.
Sorry, I had to mute my mic there because my baby was crying in the next room over, and I forgot I had that. So I always forget that I mute it. No, absolutely. Obviously I didn't watch this game, so I was putting myself through the hell that was the Frankfurt match. But yeah, I mean, just on Lennart Karl for a minute, I think it was such an outstanding goal. It's the kind of goal that you just love watching young players score, where he takes on players, he runs out the defense, and then he scores an outstanding goal. I don't like making comparisons to Messi, and I'm not going to directly make a comparison to Messi. I'm not saying he's the next Messi. In fact, I won't do that. I'll draw a comparison to another player actually, which I'm not sure Bayern fans will appreciate. But the way he kind of dribbled and the lack of the thing that I think what makes young, smaller players so dangerous is when they can find power with their shot without the backlift of their foot back, so they don't have to do a full swing to hit the shot. That was it's always been one of Messi's great kind of achievements, but obviously he's not the only one. Another player that he kind of reminded me of with that running goal was actually Xherdan Shaqiri. Admittedly, I mean, don't get me wrong, was a good player for Bayern, but maybe didn't quite hit the heights that his potential suggested. And not to say that he has, he's gone on to have a very good career, but that kind of ability to kind of dribble and just kind of pull a shot out of nowhere is what kind of really stood out to me. And I think I watched him. I think it was an early Pokal match. I was trying to remember which game it was, but our bloody website's broken today. It's been the bane of our lives for the last 12 hours or so. Partly one of the reasons we didn't record the podcast last night. But I was trying to remember which game it was. He started early in the season. I think it was a Pokal match and there's a lovely bit of skill where he takes the ball out wide and the defender comes towards him to try and close him down. He just kind of flicks the ball over the top of the defender, showing absolutely incredible skill. Let me just quickly check. I have it here. Yeah, it must have been the Pokal game against Wien Wiesbaden. Yeah, is that good pronunciation? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. I mean, not that Wien Wiesbaden is that important of a place. Although Bayern did play them in the first round of the Pokal this year.
Yeah, and he played that game. But yeah, of course, so I mean, I think that's kind of, he obviously, the point I guess I'm trying to make here is that he's obviously full of confidence. He's full of skill. He's desperate to get game time. He's desperate to prove himself at Bayern. He wants to kind of step in and show that age doesn't mean anything to him. Lack of experience doesn't mean anything to him. He's got the talent to kind of obviously start at the highest level, which is what he did last night. And, it reminds me of a young player who Bayern plucked from, the boroughs of London, right under Chelsea's nose. And then he kind of came out of nowhere and started scoring goals and creating chances and running past defenders. and almost single-handedly winning games for them. Obviously, talking about Jamal Musiala, and I think Lennart Karl is in a very similar kind of mold in that regard. So he can play through the middle. If you kind of look at his stats for the under-17s team, he's probably more of a number 10 or a number 8, but can obviously play it wide. He kind of played that central role last night for Bayern. And he just looks like a huge talent, man.
Yeah.
And, I think, I was also thinking when I was watching that, I was thinking, Bayern obviously have a huge array of players in that team who can do lots of things. Obviously, Luis Diaz has been outstanding since he came. Michael Olsen on the right-hand side has been tremendous. Harry Kane's in the form of his life. Even like Serge Gnabry's scoring a great number of goals. But we've talked a lot about that hole at the number 10 position and maybe the lack of dynamism in that central midfield, whether it's, Goretzka or Kimmich. Okay, Pavlovic is obviously trying his best to get up and down, but he's more of a holding midfielder. Now, Kane's done a great job in the number 10 position, but while we wait for Musiala to return next year, it'd be really nice to maybe see Lennart Karl get some more game time at number 10. We'll just see what he can do on a week-to-week basis. Because, playing at home against Club Brugge is obviously Champions League, still very high standard, but and to be fair, Club Brugge have caused a lot of issues in the Champions League in recent years and the Europa League, so they're no slouches, but I don't know, I just love to see him get more game time. I'd love to see what he can do. I hope this doesn't mean we have to wait another 2 or 3 months from the start of game, because I'm just desperate to see more and more of him.
No, I mean, I want to get to Lennart Karl and some of the feedback that I got yesterday. You mentioned Jamal Musiala, and Christoph Freund spoke to us yesterday and said that Jamal Musiala is now running unsupported. Previously, he was, those space machines that they have where they take off a certain amount of your weight and they slowly increase it. They go 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%. He's now running again at full. The ankle looks stable, Freund said, but he still anticipates it's going to be weeks, if not months, until he's going to be fully back on the pitch. But getting back to Lennart Karl, Vincent Kompany spoke. He's obviously asked lots about Karl. And Kompany is doing this new thing. Then his German is excellent. But when he wants to be very clear and not misunderstood, he says, "Oh, can I please answer this question in English because I don't want to be misunderstood?" And he said that in this case, and I sort of understand why he did it. And here, I can pretty much quote it. He said, "It is your job to build him up because he is a German national team talent. He's a big talent, and it is normal for him to be hyped, and that is your job, and that is fair." And then he said, "My job is to ensure that he develops as a young player. And my opinion on him is not going to change whether he's going to have a bad game or whether he's going to have a good game. My job is just to develop, make sure, that he becomes a great player." And I thought that was a really, Kompany is saying a lot of great things these days. He's really coming into his own, and he now equipped with a new contract until 2029, which I think gives him a lot more freedom, and gives him the foundation to actually build this team, because I think the club wouldn't have handed him a long-term contract if they wouldn't be willing to also go through moments of crisis, right? And if and you have that security in your back, you're also more willing to play young players because you're no longer fighting for your job every single day. You're working on building something. And 2029 is, that's 4 years from now. 4 years from now, Lennart Karl is going to be a crucial member of the squad, as is Mr. Mike, who also came on in the second half and had some fantastic moments. He looks another very young, talented German winger who looks incredible. There was another young player who was on the bench and didn't come on, and that was, hold on 1 second real quick, Vincent Kompany. Young German midfielder, 20 years old defender, who also was on the bench and maybe would have got some playing time. Tom Bischoff comes on, right? We forget how young Tom Bischoff is. He's only 20 and his minutes are getting managed. As it stands now, Kompany doesn't care anymore as much about the short-term success is there. It is there and the team is working well. but he's now has the freedom to integrate these players with the long-term future of the club in mind, right? And so Lennart Karl is going to be, in my mind, there's no doubt that he's going to be a big part of this team for a very long time.